tools that you have built inside of you to get through this that would have taken a life of somebody else, they are remarkable, and they affect everything else that's possible for you. So it's a re-narration.
Right.
So that's one technique that narrative therapy will use. Another one that I love, it's one of my favorite things to do, is what's called externalization. So externalization is whenever you take the problem in the person's life. Let's say it's anxiety, or let's say it's drinking, and you have them create a personality for the problem. So they actually give it a name and a personality, and they'll describe it to me and say, okay, so my problem's name is this. And so I had one guy, I think I've told the story on the show before, but he was a pills addict. He was an opiate addict, and he was forging prescriptions and going to the pharmacies and getting those. He even broke into a doctor's office at one point and stole a prescription pad so that he could forge these things. And he was a college-educated guy, military veteran, very intelligent. And he got caught, and he was about to face 25 years in jail for this.
Oh,
They're
wow.
not messing around. Do not screw with Big Pharma. Like, they have got the levers of power, right? So when we were dealing with this, I did this assignment with him, and I said, I want you to name this. Name the problem. Name the addiction. Give it a human name or a personality that we can discuss. And it was really funny because he comes back and he goes, Jim, I figured it out. I'm like, okay, what is it? He goes, its name is Legion. And I'm like, okay, I've read the Bible. Like, Legion is an army of demons, right? He's like, it's worse than that. It's an army of used car salesmen. I was like, you have got my attention. Please continue. And he goes, if you go to a used car lot, they're like really slimy and grimy, and they always try to talk you into it. And no matter what objection you have to buying the car, they always have a reason over that. So if you're like, oh, I can't afford it, they're like, hold on, let me get Gary. Gary's our finance guy. He'll help you out. He can always do anything. He's a whiz with numbers. Oh, well, I don't know if my wife will like it. Let me get Samantha. Samantha's over here, and, she's one of my associates, and, give us a feminine perspective, Samantha. Oh, well, I love this car, Well, I don't know if I'll get the MPG. You know what? Let me get Phil. Phil knows all about, if you just drive downhill the whole time, you gotta tell me about your route to work. Like, they always have an excuse.
Yeah.
And he said that's how his addiction would talk to him. Is he'd say, no, I don't want to go to jail. No, you're not going to go to jail. You're never going to get caught. What if my wife... No, she's not going to find out. Don't worry about it. It's like it would always debate with him. And because we now had a way to language and narrate his problem, it wasn't him versus him. It wasn't me versus my disease, my mind, and my desires. It's me versus Legion, this army of used car salesmen. And I know how to talk to that and instead of like just dealing with me.
That makes a lot of sense too. And I've used similar techniques working with folks with addiction as well. With actually looking at I've had clients write a story with for an alcoholic with alcohol as a character, not as a drink, but as a character, as a friend. Because by putting it in that sense, you really start to understand how this person affects your life. Sometimes in good ways. This person's always there for me when I fall, and sometimes in bad ways. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of the movie A Beautiful Mind.
Oh yeah,
where he's talking about these hallucinations that he has, and at one point in the movie, he kind of talks about he's like, I really miss talking to him.
Oh yeah,
he was my friend. I miss having those conversations. But he got to that realization where it's like, this is harmful. I have to. And in his mind, or the way that he phrased it was wonderful. It's a diet of the mind. There are just certain indulgences that I choose not, or certain things that I choose not to indulge.
Yeah.
Right. And so that in a way is kind of a narrative, because he's identifying this character. He's giving it a name. He's all of this, and then he has to then choose to completely separate himself.
But that's how we change our lives. And that's the thing, for the listeners, guys, that this kind of research and this form of therapy called narrative therapy can be so effective for you, because you have to take a look at the story you tell yourself. If I ask you to describe the problem, or if I ask you to describe what you're facing, and you say, well, I'm fat and I'm of poor health and I'm falling apart and I'm behind the ball in my life. Okay, so you are a formerly fit person who's currently out of shape.
Right.
Like that's how it works. Like another eating advice one. I had a guy trying to lose weight, and so we re-narrated the way he told himself about himself. So he started saying, I'm just not the kind of guy who eats cheeseburgers. That's just not who I am. I'm not the kind of guy who eats fast food. I'm just not that guy. And that wasn't true.
Right.
That's why he was overweight. But like we were re-narrating it, and he would tell himself that, and it would change his craving. It would change the way he thinks about it, because he wouldn't think, "Well, I'm in a hurry. I'm stressed. I need this." He would think, "No, I'm not the kind of guy who eats a cheeseburger. I'm just the kind of guy who enjoys a plate and forks and knives." And
I've heard people do that when they quit smoking.
yeah,
They identify as a non-smoker.
I identify as a non-smoker. And
I'm
that
a
goes back to
non-smoker.
recovery,
Right.
too, and addiction treatment, because we talk about support groups. And people think, what the hell is Alcoholics Anonymous going to give me? What's Narcotics Anonymous going to give me? Why do I go to AA or NA or any of this crap, or Overeaters Anonymous? Why? And what's interesting is, what this fMRI research teaches us is, it's a brain hack. Like, I don't
Right.
care if you have a higher power. I don't care if you love the 12 steps. I don't care about any of it. It's all a story. It's a giant story that other people are participating in, where they identify as people who no longer do this other thing, and now they intentionally try to do positive other things that are good and nourishing in their life. And they go around the circle, and what do they say? Hi, I'm Jim. I'm an alcoholic,
Yep.
right? I am changing my story. I'm no longer a person in denial about this. I'm a person who owns it, puts it up front, and is actively trying to address it. And that's why it's so powerful, because you're ultimately narrating.
Right.
And so the power of story, I think, is one of the most profound psychological tools that we have. I think it's the essence of who we are. Earlier you said something like, there is no truth. There's only perspective. And it's really funny, because I actually wrote an essay once. This is funny, because when I was in grad school, or not grad school, it was when I was in my bachelor's in religion, I wrote an essay called Christianity is Make-Believe, and so is everything else. And it was about, like, Kierkegaardian deconstructionism, and I was like, it's all a freaking story. Like, all of this is a story. Like, math is a story. Like, everything is. We choose what we believe in, so we have to own that. And, like, it's just, anyway. My professor didn't like it, but didn't get
Yeah,
an A on
imagine
that
not.
paper. No, that did not do well.
You've always been good at provoking.
Yeah,
people. I think
apparently.
that's
Well, yeah, I'll issue an apology during the appropriate segment. That's whenever we'll come back to that.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will discuss how to love a dying pet. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Jake Schneider from Atlanta. Jake says he likes the podcast a lot and wanted to throw some coin into it. You're awesome, Jake, and we super respect that you give at the $20 a month level and somehow added exactly 1 penny to that number to technically make you the largest Patreon donor. If you'd like to join the party and help make this show possible, tap into the special content for patrons only and enjoy all the feedback that goes along with it. You can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
Thanks, Jake.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and our next question is about loving a pet who is terminally ill.
Hi, Nick and Jim. Thank you so much for your wonderful comments and insights about my previous letter about my father. It is so hard to look inward to feel better than seeking it from another person, though obviously I am the only one who can control what I do, and that's where I need to look to feel better. Anyway, I'm writing in for your suggestion on death and dying. I've just confirmed that my cat has some sort of cancer and that there isn't any more diagnostic things that we can do without taking him off medication that is helping him. This doesn't help me know what is coming for him or what to expect, and it keeps him doing chemo, leaving him wondering why he feels so crappy with no guarantee it will help. Sadly, I don't think it's the best route for him. I adopted him at about age 4 and had him for about 3 years now. I adopted him after having cared for another palliative cat, hoping he'd be around for a long time. I do find it hard to be around him without bursting into tears, which makes it hard for me to enjoy the time I've had with him. When I did take him to a specialist, I spoke to another pet owner who had a dog with cancer, and his owner did a bucket list, which I like the idea of, but any coping strategies you have to help me through this time of the unknown. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks in advance. Crystal Twists.
Good letter, and hard stuff. I think that's first off. I mean, it's such a weird word to say, but we offer our condolences. I mean, one of the things that really bothers me is whenever people are diminutive about pets and pretend like they don't matter. Like that really bothers me. Like I'm a huge advocate. I'm one of the few therapists that'll be like, I'll write you a letter. for emotional support animal or whatever. Like, because I really believe in it.
Right.
I know it changes lives. I'd rather you have your cat or your dog than, a medicine cabinet full of pills. Like, if I can alternate that, I want to do it. So I know that this is, like, fundamental. Gosh, man, I mean, you're a big pets guy. I've had, animals in the past. Have you ever lost an animal? Have you ever had one pass?
Yeah, I've had to... had a dog that I actually moved to Las Vegas with and had cancer, and we had to put her down. And it was really difficult because you always, especially if you're putting down an animal, you're always second guessing yourself. People will ask, I've heard people ask me this all before, like, well, when is the right time? I was like, I don't know. I don't think there is a right time.
Right.
And I don't think you can beat yourself up over whatever you choose. I mean, I wonder about that too. Like, could she have lived longer and lived a better life? And should we have waited instead of putting her down? But I can't guarantee it would have been any better. Well, it would get worse. It would have gotten worse. You know? And I think the difficult thing for me when talking about putting down an animal was, for me, the hard part was I was looking at it the wrong way. Like everything was, this is the last.
Oh, right.
Like the last few days. It was like, well, this is the last time, we go for a walk, or, well, she wasn't really walking at that point, but like, this is the last time we'll be able to take her to a park.
Right.
This is the last car ride. This is the last thing. And that was torture for me. And that was probably not the best way to look at things. But I think, number one, I think you definitely have to allow yourself some good grieving time. Allow yourself to feel that. Crystal, you can't really move on with your life until you've dealt with all of that. Yeah. So allow yourself some time to really grieve and mourn. The other thing too that I think is helpful is anytime you feel like you're in that situation, go where you've got support.
Yeah.
Go where the love is.
Yeah.
There are going to be people around you. Go around them, or there's going to be fun things that you enjoy doing. Go do those things, and just allow yourself to be open and vulnerable to taking in support.
I agree with that. And, again, I'm grateful that we both share the perspective that this ought not be teased, that is not proper to say, oh, come on, buy another cat,
Oh, I've heard people, in jobs that will say, like, oh my God, you need a day off work because your cat died. Come on.
Yeah, and it's like, no, I sincerely believe in that. Like, I sincerely believe, yes. Like, you grieving. Like, this is it's a relationship. It's a living being. It's a relationship to you. Like, I had a cat. His name was Magic. He was all black. He was beautiful. It was in high school. I went to college. And one day I come home and my whole family's like sitting quietly, like some, like a ghost, they saw a ghost. I said, hey, God, what happened? And they said, listen, when you were on your way home, the cat, something fell, it startled him, he jumped and he broke his neck. Like he landed into a wall and he broke his neck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they didn't save the body, and it was an intentional decision on their part. They said, we want your memories of him to only be the best. So we're kind of robbing you of the chance to have any other visual memory of him besides him being an awesome cat. And at the time I remember being like, obviously really upset, and there's part of me that felt jilted and felt like I deserved to say goodbye. But in the aftermath, decades later now, I'm like, yeah, no, I kind of get it. Like, all of my memories of him are really positive. So I don't think it's proper to, obviously in that case it was very sudden. I didn't get to watch it unfold over time. I think with animals it's obviously very fundamentally different, but I think euthanasia is a real concept to limit suffering and, let them have a pain-free death. I think that there's meaning to that, but obviously, Crystal, you're not asking for advice on whether to put the cat down, whose name you didn't share, and that's okay. But you're talking about the situation of facing this medical crisis and what to do about it. The bucket list thing, Nick, I thought that was a really good idea. I really like that idea. I think taking those pictures, having those memories, doing the bucket list, being kind, being loving, that's all you can do. And I think that it's extremely meaningful, especially whenever you know your animal is suffering.